I forgot to press the go live button. I've I've not been doing anything really. I just said hi, but I realised you've missed about 5 minutes of just me making a tune. Hello, how's everyone doing? I realise you've all been in silence there for a bit. I have just got back from the pool about half an hour ago, so my hair is all chlorine swimming pool-y, and my nose is a bit runny from being in the swimming pool, but we'll get through that. How is everyone? How is everyone today? We are doing a tea stream today instead of wine because it's gonna be a big weekend. I'm away to Liverpool for the World Transformed, and I thought probably a good idea to not start the weekend on Thursday. So we're having a relaxing, chill stream today. No wine, just some Earl Grey tea. If that's acceptable to everyone. Can everyone hear me? Is that? Oh, not the conservative incels. Yeah. 1 second. I'm just gonna shut my phone on to charge. And then we can get started. Yep, everything can hear. Cool. I was thrown off by forgetting to press the go live button there, but we're all good. Audio is good. Everything's good. Woo! We're doing brilliantly. Yeah. So I'm not sure what the plan for today is. Just same as ever. Just piss about. Except this time I won't be getting slowly drunk. And just chat about shit. Things that have been going on this week. It has been a bad week for the world, I guess. But for British politics, especially with the Conservative Party conference, which is always miserable. So we'll talk about that for a bit. Filmed a new video. New video will be out. It's out now for patrons. Oh, I've gone on. The Tory conference has been particularly bad. This year, I think. Maybe it's always this bad and it just feels like it's particularly bad, but it does feel particularly bad this year, with, fascist politics being trotted out left, right and centre, transphobic politics taking a fucking centre stage, weird incel Nazi children at the Tory conference complaining about nobody wanting to talk to them of their own age group or go out with them or like have sex with them because they're Tories. It's a weird thing, isn't it? These people who complain that it's like. So many of them are like, oh, it's like bigotry. You wouldn't call someone scum just because they were gay, would you? You're like, no, you wouldn't. But we're calling you scum because you're a Tory, not because you're gay. Different things are different, and in this case, more so than many others. Oh yeah, the thing people don't want to talk to me once they find out I'm a Tory. Good. They shouldn't, because it's a bad thing to be a Tory. it's a bad thing to be a Tory, and it's good that people don't want to talk to you. Sorry about it, but it's the straight truth. Yeah, we can chat a bit about that. We've got a new video out for patrons, and it'll be out for everyone else tomorrow. Deciding which time to put the premiere on. Might put it slightly earlier than normal, so I can do something in the evening. As in, I might premiere it for about 6 o'clock tomorrow British time instead of 7, like I normally do for premieres. Yeah, patrons can watch it now. It's on the note. It's a short video, another shorter one on this time on the concept of green growth and whether it's happening and why it's become such a why people are insisting on green growth being the way forward, and the effect that has on broader politics. It's an interest. It's turned out to be quite an odd one for something I've done, in that the first 2/3 of it are really quite dry sort of empirical reporting on a particular study, and then the second, the last third is one of the more polemical things that I've done, which is interesting. Didn't expect it to turn out that way, but it did. So I quite like the latter third of it. But we'll see how that goes. After this stream, I'll make a thumbnail and sort out the premiere for that for tomorrow. Yep, the green growth camp is. I don't like it at all. I don't like the way that they operate. I don't like the implications for green politics that focusing on green growth has, and I don't like the use of the graphs that they always trot out. The graphs about decoupling GDP from emissions. And as if that's evidence for carrying on as things are. And a lot of it just seems to rest on the assumption that magic exists, that somehow within the next few years we'll invent magic and fix everything. That seems to be the central theoretical nub of a lot of green growth politics. Assuming green growth means not just growing green technologies, but growing the economy itself, GDP in general, a generic green growth which is possible due to the decoupling of emissions and GDP. So it's not about the concept that you can grow certain things, certain green technologies, because that would be absurd. That'd be an absurd thing to criticise, because of course you can. The when's the video? It's going to be out probably. I'll probably set it for a premiere for tomorrow at 6 o'clock British time. So probably about 6 o'clock tomorrow. I might post some screenshots from it tonight, just for fun. Once I've finished with the thumbnail and everything, and yeah, it's obviously it's as you should come to expect from this channel. It's a very light video. There's not much horror, not much existential dread, and you'll leave it feeling elated. As I always like to leave my audience, and as you have come to expect from me, a certain degree of lightness, levity. You're not here to get pulled down into the misery of necropolitics. You're just here for laughs and a good time. Mike Wilson saying green growth is also weirdly imperialist from a lot of the arguments I see. We will get into that. Yes, that is. I talk about that a fair amount. What are your thoughts on changes coming to patrons UX? Excited? So I went on to Patreon. I mean, I'm just nervous that Patreon's gonna fold. If Patreon folds, I'm fucked. Like, I'm fucked. Which is, you know, bad. That's so they could fuck around with the fucking user, the layout of it. It's annoying. But please, Patreon, don't fold, because it will fuck me so badly. So that's all my thoughts, is just hoping that Patreon manages to hold on for a while longer. I'm competing for Novara Live. Well, take 30 minutes out of Novara Live to watch my video. You'll get more from it. I just saw Michael Walker today talk about how muse over why we're not doing solar engineering, why we're not plumbing all this investment into solar engineering, because Walker and Bastani are very on the geoengineering, the technology is magic to solve climate change, really. So you know, you're going to get more valuable stuff about climate change from that video than you will from anything Michael Walker or Aaron Bastani produce. There's actually a wee joke about Aaron Bastani's book in the video. Rutger Bergman was recommending Bastani's Fully Automated Luxury Communism as a book which challenges, which gets rid of the evil degrowth, which really challenges degrowth. And when I saw that, I laughed and laughed. Interesting that the foremost fucking left liberal of 2010 is so interested in defending a book of a supposed communist. One might wonder why. Hello, Juliet, all the way from Chicago. We have folks from all over here. It's lovely, all the way around the world. Welcome. A Patreon is in a bad position, especially regarding venture capital market. Unsurprisingly, needs more competition than OnlyFans and Subbable. Yeah, I mean, I've not brought myself to watch. I know Tom Nicholson put out a video on it, and I've not brought myself to watch it because I think it will just make me too nervous. I I need this to keep going until I find a job, at least, and even then probably after. So you know, as long as it keeps going, yeah, I mean, I don't know what else. Like, there's no. I'm looking for jobs. That's basically it. There's no real way, no real platform to do it that's supportable. If nothing there. Maybe like find a way to just like get people to subscribe to a Substack or something. I don't know. But you know, it makes me very scared. So you know, I'm very scared about that. And I don't want to think about it. I am. Ko-fi doesn't seem to have, like, particularly. It doesn't seem to be very good for it. People don't seem to sign up for it. South Africa, wow, people from all over. Welcome from South Africa. Yeah, nothing seems to have. I mean, maybe I have a couple of friends who are not in the sort of YouTube world, but who were influencers in the sense, and they made their money online. Who might know of better things to do. Yeah, I'm not gonna watch Tom's video. I'm afraid it will just make me. Well, there's sign up, like, I don't know if there's a capacity for it in Ko-fi to, or like giving feed stuff for people to sign up for, and giving benefits and things like that. I mean, if Patreon folds, then I will scramble to the nearest one which can provide help, which might be Ko-fi. But people don't tend to sign up to Ko-fi. They just tend to give one-off things. You know, I don't know. There's not the space right now to muse over what happens if I'm fucked. We'll see. I have every third rooftop and pavement held here in the city. Solar engineering isn't solar panels. It's not renewable solar panels. It's geoengineering of solar, of the sun and stuff like that. It's not solar like investing in solar panels is fine and good, it'd be good, but solar engineering is a whole other kettle of fish. A previously unpursued area, because basically scientists are like, this is not a feasible option. It's not something, you know, that is feasible as an option for like global warming, dealing with global warming. The counter perspective for optimism is Patreon demonstrated that there is a market to be tapped, and if Patreon shutters, we should expect something else to pick up the slack. We can hope. I mean, hopefully, I would hope that if there was a potential for it shutting down already, then it would be. I would hope that there were already options being floated that were ready to pick up the slack immediately. But you know, we can hope. Yeah, solar engineering is on the level of blocking out the sun. Yeah, things like that. Like using cloud cover to block out sun rays. There was that Hank Green thread where he claimed that geoengineering, the reason that there was, or a major reason that there was a massive warming spike in the Atlantic Ocean was because the boats, transport ships were no longer emitting a certain chemical which produced clouds which blocked out the sun. They were no longer doing that, and then that heated the sea. It turned out that it's not true. It's not really like a major factor, and it was an erroneous thing for him to tweet. And it was basically a defense of geoengineering, and this sort of geoengineering stuff is a massive misdirect to dealing with global warming, because it's basically a way to get tech bros and government officials and various capitalists and functionaries of the system to find a magic fix and a way out for global warming that isn't fundamentally deal with the extractive and economic system that exists. It's just a cheat. They're just desperate for a cheat, which is why things like solar engineering, why people like Michael Walker, who's a big social democrat, are so attracted to geoengineering, because they're like, oh, maybe we can get our way around it, but they can't. You can't get your way around it, I'm afraid. There are things that you can do, and we know what they are, and they are challenging to the fundamental economic relations of society. Do they just want to do Snowpiercer? Basically, yeah. It's basically just Snowpiercer. Yeah, solar engineering is just a form of geoengineering. It's basically what it is. As Merchant of Doubt mentions, there will just be another bigger environmental crisis after if capitalism remains. Yeah, I mean the fundamental part of capitalism is that it is extractive, and it decimates nature. There's never been a point where capitalism hasn't done that. It's necessary to its continuing to functionalize and extract from nature without any concern about what that means for us as part of nature. Because of the other part of that is that sort of capitalist logic requires a separation of humans and nature, where nature is instrumentalized by humans, and that's always going to throw up environmental degradation and environmental catastrophes. Yeah. It's not just that. I went through that to you quite quickly. How about let's do a tune while we're stuck on the two misery crises of maybe Patreon collapsing and me being fucked, and the world's environment crashing and us all being fucked. So let's do a wee tune. What are folks saying on chat? Been a few good videos recently on planned obsolescence. Yeah, the planned obsolescence is a big thing. One of the big major policy points, I guess, of degrowth is the planned obsolescence question. Part of like one of the first things, one of the easy, like something that you can just, it's like a point of like rationalization. It just makes obvious sense, intuitive and obvious sense to be like, planned obsolescence makes no sense, so get rid of it. But like, while the profit motives at work, it's unlikely to ever be dealt with in any serious way. So, you know, need to get rid of the profit motive. Have I been to Chicago suburb? Solar panels on roofs could temporarily ease some inequalities here to the sheer cost of individuals. Yeah, I mean, massive investment in renewable energy, solar panels on rooftops would need massive amounts of basically state intervention to facilitate the installation of solar panels across the country. I think basically that's another point that needs to be done immediately. Planned obsolescence feels like it fully encapsulates almost every problem inherent within capitalism, including both consumer and worker exploitation. I mean, it's just one of those things that makes no sense, and the notion, sometimes people have this notion that capitalism is a rational system, and that it always produces rationalisms, and I don't know where this comes, people on the left sort of think of this as well, like it's like a kind of vulgar, progressive notions of capitalism as like historically progressive, and they're like, oh, capitalism rationalizes things, and then we just need to get rid of the exploitation, and the rationalization of capitalism will make society work. Obviously, the system isn't rational, and in several senses, one of which being planned obsolescence makes no sense except for the profit motive, and any rationality that exists in capitalism is fully subordinate to the accumulation of capital, and it's rational in under the logic of accumulating capital to have planned obsolescence. And this is one of the reasons that rationality is itself a concept that needs context, because in a different context it's completely irrational, it makes no sense at all. Planned obsolescence needs to obviously go. Randomly saw sorry, I missed the question there. Randomly saw some TikTok clip of Victoria Beckham saying she was very working class and then being checked immediately. Yeah, that was so funny. Getting checked by David Beckham about being. I mean, I don't understand what was she thinking? Her name's Posh Spice. Like, did she think that? Like, did she think that people didn't know that? I'm so confused by the whole situation. Like, yeah, sure, I'm Posh Spice, and my dad's she's been in the public eye for decades. Everyone knows that or at least lots of people know that her dad was like a massive business owner and employed folk, and that she was wealthy, she was rich. But it's one of those sort of interesting things of like the British class dynamic being such that people who are not don't talk posh, but who grew up with rich parents think that they're not posh and they're not rich, which is weird. But you know, that was really funny watching David Beckham just be like, what car did your dad drive you to school in? I thought that was very funny. It was so funny. It was the way his head pokes into frame in that TikTok is unintentionally hilarious. It's so funny, and the way he just insists is like, no, tell me, tell the truth. What car did your dad drive you to school in? She's like, a Rolls Royce, yes. Seen any good movies or any coming out? Going to see the Pedro Pascal Gabe Cowboy one tonight. I want to see that one as well. I don't know. I went to see a play yesterday, and it was. I thought I didn't buy the tickets. It was Hamnet, and I assumed because it was called Hamnet that it was going to be like a retelling of the Danish story. Not necessarily. I knew it wasn't Hamlet, like the Shakespeare play. I assumed it was going to be like The Northman, which is an interpretation of Hamnet. And I thought it was going to be like a staging of that old story. But it was actually just like a kind of soap opera kind of story about William Shakespeare and his wife. I did not like it. It was very boring. It was very soppy, and it did the. I disagreed with the person I went with, who I think that it fell into that trap of making the Agnes Hathaway character, the Anne Hathaway character, Shakespeare's wife, like a magical woman who knows with her feelings and communes with nature, while Shakespeare's obviously like the great wordsmith. And I kind of fell into that distinction, that kind of misogynistic view of women only having access to this special nature knowledge, where men have the book learning and the capacity for rationality and things like that. I think it fell into that. The disagreement was like, my girlfriend was like, she thought it was like a reflection of like the period where there were different views of knowledge at work. I just don't agree. I think it just fell into like the play ends in a speech about her seeing from the moment they met a vision of their entire future, which she didn't understand until he put it into words. And I just thought that sealed the deal for me of being like, yeah, I think this is just kind of misogynistic, despite being supposedly focusing on the Anne Hathaway story. I just don't think it was. I don't think that was the major problem with it. Is that I thought it was quite boring. But that was probably if I was to intellectualize a critique of it, I'd say that was probably a bad feature of it. I don't know if I've seen any good movies though recently. I watched a TV show. I'll get into the TV shows in a bit. I watched Mrs. Wilson, which was odd. It wasn't bad, but it was odd. And I'll talk about that in a bit. Sorry, just catching up with chat. Got a lot of chat today. How many folk are in? 40 folk. We got a full 40 folk in. Pretty good. Is the goal of capitalism rational in the first place? Such a weird myth of rationality. I mean, the goal of capitalism is to accumulate profit. And there were systems of rationality, Cartesian rationality, things like that are instrumental in capitalism. So there are forms of rationality that are all subordinate to that central, like that drive of accumulation, I think. And that makes it irrational from some perspectives, those perspectives which are not concerned necessarily with accumulating profit. but rational from the perspective of making loads of money, essentially. Let's see. Did they even make Shakespeare by? I said this at the interval. I said they better make Shakespeare by, and they fucking didn't. No mention of it. Nothing at all. Like, what they could have done, and what they should have done, frankly, is they should have not had Shakespeare in it, or had him very, very sparingly in it. But they seem to want to have a lot of him, which was weird, for supposedly a story about Anne Hathaway. If they wanted to look at the grief that she felt after her son Hamnet died, then the absence of Shakespeare from the play, and how he's in London for most of the time, would have added to that. But instead they kept like having him come on, just weird. It's a weird decision to make. Basically they just wanted to have Shakespeare on stage, and the people wanted to act Shakespeare, and there was there were so many, so much of it was put on by the Royal Shakespeare Company, so it makes sense, but they did so many let's do Shakespeare and his players rehearsing a play, and I was like, I don't give a fuck about this. I don't want to see Shakespeare and his players rehearsing a play, 2 minutes of a play. That's not a good way to consume or engage with Shakespeare. It's just annoying, and it undermines the other play, the actual play that they're doing. But they've got so many plays within plays and within plays, which I know is very Shakespearean, but come on. If you want the story to be about Anne Hathaway, then and you spend so much time reifying Shakespeare and Shakespearean legacy, then it kind of undermines the goal in the first place, which I find kind of annoying. But no, they didn't make Shakespeare by. Even after all that time they spent with Shakespeare, they didn't. There was a line about how Anne Hathaway was like, "Oh, I can smell all the women you have on you," and he was like, and I was like, "And men." Cowardly, I'd call that cowardly. Did I catch John Oliver's show where he made a case for prison abolition? I did not. I don't watch John Oliver much because it's just hard to find in the UK. I can't be bothered. Pirating John Oliver. I might watch it at some point. He strikes me as one of the best case scenario for that kind of thing. John Oliver, like the best case scenario for a corporate show. Left-wing panel show, desk show, whatever you call it, late night show. He seems like the best case scenario, and he definitely watches YouTube, or at least his staff watch YouTube videos, like left-wing YouTube essays. He's definitely aware of them, and like intonations and the way that he presents these things, which is funny. But no, I've not seen it. All hair numbers go up. We're still on the aim to get to 50,000 subscribers on this channel by the end of the year. That's been a goal for about 2 years now. We're gonna do it. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. Very cowardly, yeah, Foxy Femboy, very cowardly. Go see an actual Shakespeare play if you want to see players do a Shakespeare play. Exactly. From like February, something like March till September, you can go and see them for £5 in the Globe in London. It's great. Some of them are great. I've seen some great Shakespeare plays and I've enjoyed them. But tickets weren't too expensive. They were only £10, which is not bad. That's cheaper than going to the cinema. But it was just, I didn't like it much. I got some nice ice cream afterwards, some pistachio and mint chocolate chip ice cream, and a nice a bit of Greek, I can't remember what it's called, like a Greek wrap as well. So the food afterwards was by far the best part of that night. But I did not enjoy the play, and it was in. There's lots of bad parts of London. It was in one of my least favourite parts of London, which is like down by Leicester Square area. Which is just horrible. I hate it. I hate that area. I hate everything about it. It fundamentally gets on my nerves. So I wasn't in a good mood going in. Can't believe I don't have 50k. Hey man, we've been going for 4 years, and we'll get there eventually. If the rug doesn't get pulled out from under me, and I have to stop. Do I have any thoughts on greedflation and Isabel Weber? I do not. I'm sorry. It's nice to have this little community. I like this little community. I like how about 30 to 40 viewers on a stream is good. It's enough to keep track on. It wasn't a hero. It was something else. I can't remember what was. It wasn't a hero though. I do like them, but it wasn't that. It was. I can't remember what it was. Yeah. Oh yeah, that was what I was gonna. Before I talk about Mrs. Wilson, I will say someone I know went to go and see, like someone's mother I know went to go and see the Harry Potter play, which I saw as I was walking down one of the worst parts of London towards Leicester Square, where they have the dedicated Harry Potter theatre, and there's a bunch of people taking photos of it because they have no other things going on in their lives. And the person's mother absolutely hated it. Like the description of how bad the acting was, how bad the staging was. I didn't realise this. It's 2 plays, so it's a whole day that you spend in the theatre to see the Harry Potter play, and it's expensive, and from what it sounds like, absolutely terrible. The acting's all terrible. There's terrible staging. No one knows what they're doing. The plot is that when it's good that character Cedric Diggory was killed, because if he wasn't, he would have become a Death Eater anyway. So therefore, it was okay to kill a child in the book, which seems like a bizarre thing to write a long 2-part play about. But what do I know? I'm not a billionaire. But it reminded me of. I remember watching like a promotional clip before the first Fantastic Beasts film came out, where someone was saying, "Oh, J.K. Rowling, she's used to writing books, so her scripts are just they're so descriptive, and we've got to work." Is this the play that she wrote? Yes, this is the play that she wrote. Yeah. Yeah, so I saw this clip of this person being like, oh yeah, so descriptive. Not written like a screenplay at all, so we had so much to work with. And in my head I was just like, she's written a terrible screenplay. She has no idea what she's doing, writing a screenplay. And someone's done a lot of work editing it into something that is recognisably a screenplay. And I suspect a similar thing has happened with the theatre play, where she's got no idea what she's doing. Has just written some bollocks and coasted off the Harry Potter reputation, which is mystifyingly still so powerful. Still getting people taking photos of the dedicated theatre of it near Leicester Square, that was another thing that annoyed me as I was making my way to the theatre yesterday. Yeah. Did I ever figure out which painting was the Toby Jones painting? I didn't. I should have looked that up. I didn't figure that out. I'll for next time, remind me before the next stream will be in 2 weeks. Somehow remind me, and I will find the Toby Jones Jesus. I've written both plays and short stories, and they're just such different formats, so descriptive, and trying not to throw shade. Yeah, I mean, clearly, it's very, very, very clear that she had no idea what she was doing, which is, I guess, reflected in the fact that those movies, I think I saw, I didn't see the third one, but I think I saw the first one, and I think, I can't remember if I watched the second one the whole way through. I think it was on TV once, and I think I was like, this is phenomenally bad. But yeah, they were not good. They were not good movies. Somehow remind me, yeah. Look, if you want to figure out which Jesus looks like Toby Jones, you're gonna have to remind me, because I'll forget. Well, we do another tune, and then I'll talk about something else. Maybe talk about Mrs. Wilson, because there's some fun stuff to talk about there. And yeah. Yes, and then, oh yeah, we can also talk about, once I've got this other track going, next week, D&D, a new D&D streaming campaign will be beginning on Sinan's Twitch channel, SK the Crusader. We'll be streaming our D&D campaign, which is going to be fun. It's going to be on the same times, so we'll be doing it on every second Thursday. That is not when I'm streaming. So if I'm not streaming here, we'll be streaming on Sinan's channel and doing some D&D. So join us next week. I'll be reminding everyone as well next week. Yeah, I'll tell you a bit about my character as well after another tune. quite a chill one. You want Slayer? No Slayer. I can't do Slayer. I don't like Slayer. Never been a fan of metal. Oh, that's why that's going on. I was wondering why this. It's not. There we go. That's better. Okay. So what were we talking about, people? Where were we? I can cover the Tory conference. I can talk. Yeah, I said I was going to talk about that. I'll talk about that in a bit. God. Tories cancelling the Manchester leg of the high-speed rail. Yep. I mean, they're vandalising, doing a process of social infrastructure vandalism before they get voted out of office and replaced by their shadow versions of the Labour Party. Yeah. The ticket office closures are horrendous. For anyone who doesn't know, there's plans to close is it 1,000 ticket office? It's either 1,000 ticket offices or firing 1,000 staff across the UK, which at train stations, which is obviously going to cause an immense amount of trouble for anyone who wants to get onto trains, but particularly for disabled people who need ticket operators for accessibility reasons, elderly people who often need assistance and don't like the technology that is being implemented, the ticket machine technology, and just general safety for late night travel in train stations. So it's an absurd scenario. It's one of the reasons why train and rail strikes were going ahead. They were cancelled at the last minute, but there's been it's a completely absurd suggestion of something to do, and the only reason to do it is the only reason I can think to do it is because they have an ideological zeal to get people to stop using public transport so they can continue to use cars. And that's the only reason I can think that they want to actually do this. It's horrendous. It's a completely horrendous idea. And there's already in London, there's already so many so many stations that don't have ticket attendants, ticket offices, and closing more is they did this in the 90s in London. They closed a whole load of ticket offices, and it was terrible. It was completely inaccessible for people, so they opened a whole bunch more, but it never recovered fully. It's just an awful idea. It's been tried, it failed before, and I was watching a government a committee meeting on it that had representatives from the RMT, the rail union, and a disability campaigner on it. And the disability campaigner brought up that the only place where there's been anything productive or useful coming out of the lack of a ticket office was that the station set up a ticket office and just didn't call it a ticket office. And it was so the only way around not having a ticket office is to have a ticket office, which is grim, and it's obviously the case. It seems parochial, but it's a fundamental thing that stops people being able to access public transport, which in the context of needing to decarbonise and needing to get more and more people out of cars and into public transport is completely obscene and completely backwards. The ticket office thing really gets me. Slayer, yeah, Slayer's much more Sinan's thing. All right. I'm not gonna go through chat. Okay, I'll let chat. I'll deal with. Not gonna be able to see your comments, or else I'll get stuck scrolling. No one wants to see me scrolling. Let's. Also, lots of tickets can't be bought via ticket machines, especially cheaper ones used by the worst off in society. Yeah, and that was a good point made by Mick Lynch during the committee meeting, was that it opens it up to exploitation by train providers. If you're doing things just by like apps, then there's not much stopping them from offering you a much more expensive ticket than the one you necessarily need, because it's an app that they run. Whereas if it's a ticket office run not for the benefit of a train company, they can help you find the cheapest way to travel. So it's just yet another way of leveraging power into the hands of these privatized rail companies that already screw over so much of so many commuters, so many people who use rail services. It's a truly terrible idea, and there's absolutely no upside to it. It's a terrible idea any way you slice it, and it's absurd. And I think it plays into we'll get back to D&D in a second. Let's talk about the fucking Tory conference. And the day I don't have wine and we're talking about the Tory conference. Did it to myself. Yeah, so a big theme of the Tory conference does seem to be the increasing overtness of their fascism, from the attacks on the notion of 15-minute cities, the conspiratorial notion that the Labour Party are going to insist people stay within fine people for moving 15 minutes out of their from their home, and force people to not leave their homes for as far as 15 minutes away. That conspiratorial thinking, based on an extremely asinine and really useful notion of like, we should have access within 15 minutes walk to everything that we need as members of society. And fuck, I did that as well. We barely have a shop around my end. So obviously, seven bins. Yeah, that was the one. That was one of the weirder, more sort of parochial conspiracy theories. Was the notion that we're gonna have 7 bins. Whatever. Then there was the both Suella Braverman, the Home Secretary, and Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister, spent time talking about trans people, deliberately going out of their way to be transphobic for no reason except to be transphobic, because it's part of their fascist voting bloc to be transphobic. Like to both of them. One conservative, like I have no sympathy for this guy because he's a conservative councillor or whatever, some like conservative bureaucrat. Got chucked out of the conference for being like for heckling, barely heckling Suella Braverman, and talking about how there's no such thing as gender ideology, because there isn't, at least in the way that they talk about it. And he got ejected from the Tory conference. No concern for him, because fuck him, he's a Tory. But it does sort of indicate how like overtly fascist like it's getting. And I was like, or it's been for a while, but overtly so. And I was combined with like another completely bizarre proposal to not allow trans women on women's wards in hospitals, which, like, completely unworkable idea. Like, it's not it's the sort of thing that I suspect won't happen, because like it's already like it's just difficult. It would just be a difficult and hassle for healthcare workers to do. I suspect if they tried to do it, there'd just be massive pushback and they won't get it through. But the point of the policy isn't necessarily to pass it, it's to further stoke that particular fear. That particular fear of trans people. Because, like, if they want, the health service in the UK is segregated for trans people enough. So, you know, they don't really need to do that. All they need to do is stoke fear and hatred and further reify biological essentialist gender views of gender. They're the real gender ideologues, aren't they? It's utterly bizarre and horrible. And some of the worst stuff, the absolute worst stuff, wasn't even at the Tory conference, but Suella Braverman in the run-up to the Tory conference going to the US to do this speech about how, like, this utterly fascist speech, using Great Replacement, like directly lifting Great Replacement theory talking points to talk about immigrants, to talk about how all these immigrants who have come to the country are diluting British culture. These are her words: diluting British culture to the point of it no longer existing, and saying and stoking fears about the amount of children born in the UK are to foreign-born mothers. Absolutely fascist rhetoric. Totally fascist rhetoric. Not concealed. That is fascist rhetoric. And it's horrendous that it's just so visible. And the Labour Party's response to Suella Braverman's speech at the Tory Party conference, in the wake of that pretty much overtly fascist speech in the US, was to say that it wasn't fascist enough, was to say that she's not stopped enough migrants coming over, that she's not got enough police officers attacking people in the streets, that she's not got enough of the fascism. It was very much, we welcome the Tory Party's overt fascism, but we invite them to go even further, and we, the Labour Party, will more efficiently administer this fascism in a way that really supports the white British people. It's utterly, profoundly depressing, and like, it was just horrendous. And all these like fucking sensible media personalities, like, what's his name? Fuck it, that guy from the New Statesman. People being like, oh, it's not the Labour, the Conservative Party aren't really that far right, are they? If they were far right, they would have cut taxes. So prove that they're being far right. And you're like, at this point, if you're denying that, if you're trying to play some cover for how fascist they are, then you yourself are a fucking fascist. Ian Leslie, yeah, fucking piece of shit. Like, imagine how, like, you want to spend your time being performatively not seeing your nose on your face, and that's how you want to spend your life, to have hundreds of people being like, you have a nose on your face, and him being like, but when I look straight forward and ignore the nose on my face, I cannot see it, so how do you know it's there, it can't possibly be there. It must be such an embarrassing way to live. Never mind being like fascist, just like have some shame, have some fucking self-respect. Call yourself a journalist, you spend all this time just having the object permanence of a toddler playing peekaboo. Honestly, horrendous. I do wish I had my wine. Yeah, I wish it's so bad that many who'd saying, my parents saw Sinek say that about trans people, they recognise that it's wrong, but they're completely unable to to see how dangerous and fascist it is. Yeah, I think it's one of the things where I think most people are generally just don't think about trans people very much. Like, most people just go about their lives. So when they see this come up at Tory party conference, they're just like, what are you talking about? They don't recognise it as a handmaiden to fascism. Why would they? Because, you know, they don't think about it very much in their day-to-day lives. Yeah, it's things are not great in the old UK. It turns out. Yeah. Should we talk about D&D now? Now that I've done my analysis of the Conservative Party conference, the analysis is they're fascists. You know, one last thing on that. Just thinking about that little dweeb who was complaining that his girlfriend dumped him after finding out he was a Tory, which is, you know, we stand a queen with morals. I heard on Trash Future all the primary schools over there are going to collapse because of cheap concrete. It's not just primary schools, it's concrete. I don't necessarily know if it's cheap. It might be, but it's a type of concrete construction that was used between 1960 and I think 1990, which has a shelf life of about 30 years. It's like aerated concrete. And like my schools my brother's worked in, I've had to close. I've had to move out to places. It is cheap. They've had to move out of their the reason they used it was because it was cheaper. Yeah, of course. But I didn't want to. What I meant there was like not necessarily that. It wasn't like it was like they deliberately used this cheaper thing, not necessarily like they cut that it was like I'm trying to think of a distinction that I can't quite voice there. It was cheap concrete. They did it where it was cheap, and it was easy and fast production. But like, yeah, the schools my brothers are in have both had to move certain areas outside into basically porta cabins to do teaching. Because they both have them in their high schools, and it's dangerous. So a whole bunch of schools are collapsing, which is great. It's really good stuff for the UK. Our schools are crumbling, our train lines are being slashed, our government is fascist, and I guess, is there anything good? Both my brothers are teachers, yeah. And they both had to deal with this. And government buildings, including Parliament, yeah. At least, yeah, that's the thing. At least Parliament is collapsing. I'll say that. I'll say that for the UK. At least Parliament's collapsing. Yeah, I mean, it reminds me, my school growing up it didn't have that problem. It was built before that. It was built in the 50s, so it was structurally more sound. But the problem was that in my school was built above mining shafts and was sinking into the ground. So we had this thing that was called the rotunda, which was not circular because one half had sunk into the ground, and it had. Maybe one part of that might have been built with the aerated concrete because it was built in 2000, and that was that was a badly built extension to the school. Yeah, that school, the lights leaked when it rained. It didn't have running water in the boys' toilets, at least. It was a bad building, and there's a new one now, but who knows if that was made with the bad concrete. Yeah, things are not good. concrete issue reminds me of a similar issue here in Ireland. Houses and apartments were built with inferior concrete and are falling apart. The Mika scandal. Okay. You know, at least say what you will about the UK, we're not the only one who's shit. Yeah, the concrete was bad. Yeah, so I was going to talk about, that's what I was going to say. The dweebs, the little dweebs, young Tory dweebs, they're always so creepy. They're always such little creepy foot soldiers of like fascism. And I saw a video of them today of like this group of them, this gaggle of 18-year-old Tories who all had the same voice. And it reminded me when I was 16 and there was Clegg mania when the Liberal Democrat leader Nick Clegg got a wave of support, and a bunch of people were supporting Nick Clegg. And I remember my mum very presciently during one of the debates between Clegg and Gordon Brown and David Cameron saying, if I close my eyes, I cannot hear the difference between Nick Clegg's voice and David Cameron's voice, and that turned out to be fucking prescient because they went into coalition together. But that's what it reminded me of. This gaggle of Tories who all had the exact same voice. They were all just talking about fascism and how they need to support Rishi Sunak and how he's really bringing the country forward and all this bollocks. And it's worse when they try to look cool. Like there was a video of a bunch of them singing a meme song from 2010 maybe 2012 about how good Rishi Sunak is. And I was like, my fucking god, guys, you're clinically out of date with your meme songs. It was bizarre. The thing is, I hate them so much. There's no bit to this. I'm just genuinely like angry about how much I hate them. I wish I had wine. Cement, das concrete, baby. Yeah, so enough with the Tory conference. That's all there is to say about it. Bunch of fucking fascists fucking about. All of them wearing suits. Fucking children wearing suits. Creepy. You're 18 and you wear a suit. Why is your tie that broad? They all look like you could ride a bike up their ties. It's so fucking broad. The fucking 18-year-old weirdos. Just like go smoke some weed. Get bullied a little bit. I can't say that I'm advocating any illegal activity here on this channel. But just, you're 18. Go into the woods and drink some vodka. Fucking anything except go to a Tory party conference. You're wondering why people don't like you. You're 18 and you're going to Tory party conferences and you're not fucking out there drinking vodka in the woods like a normal person. My god. How are they getting dates? They're not getting dates apparently. Someone was asking me, why aren't the Tories just why are they trying to hang out with other folk and not just each other? And the fact is, they all hate each other too. Like, there's an old phrase in political science that the hardest voting demographic is for Conservative Party leadership, and the reason for that isn't because they're particularly, difficult to convince or that they're very smart or whatever. It's because they're all snakes and they all hate each other, and every one of them is constantly stabbing each other in the back, because none of these people have any sense of solidarity with each other beyond a vague sense of class solidarity to fuck over poor people. But they fucking hate each other. All these people, none of them like each other. Should a left-leaning teenager organise? Sure, but a left-leaning teenager should spend more of their time hanging out with their friends and being a kid, not going to conferences. If they want to organise, fine, but like, I think we should let kids be kids. I don't. If they want, it's fucking weird, man. Right, D&D, right. So, for anyone who wasn't here, next week I'll be going on and ongoing every 2 weeks, every other week. I'll be going on to SK the Crusader, Sinan's Twitch channel, to do a D&D stream, and it's so it's going to be my character is going to be it's called Arthur Junk, or Art Junk, and he's like a that's an in there, and that is and he is like, he's a human rogue fighter who has been sort of his whole life conscripted into fighting wars and like skirmishes on behalf of more powerful actors, and he's always just wanted to. What time will the D&D be? What time will it be, Sinan? Will it be like 7 or so? 1 second while Sinan answers that question. And he's always been just kind of not wanting to engage. He didn't want to be in these wars. So he just sort of got good at avoiding things and like hanging out with his friends, and then just being forced into doing fighting when he could. That's 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Will be the D&D. Until he got to a particular battle where they were overrun, and he ran from the battlefield and left all of his friends to be slaughtered, basically. And so now he is now he's just sort of kind of like a like an archetype of like that kind of American Vietnam vet, like, you weren't there, man, kind of just struggling to survive, doing what he can, stealing to pay for his booze and get through his life, and just basically just being like, you didn't see what happened, you have no idea, man, you don't know what it's like, man. But all he really wants to do is he'll sometimes steal for money, but he'll also steal like trinkets and things, because he has this fantasy that he's had his whole life of like starting a junk shop, an arts and junk shop called Arts Junk. And so that's basically his life's goal, is to, despite the fact he's got very little ability to pursue his goal at the moment and is just floundering, his life's goal is to start an art and junk shop and just spend his time enjoying sitting around selling art and junk. And because his name is Art Junk. And that's basically the character so far. I'm sure as things go on, he'll develop. But we will start with him hanging around with someone called a warforged called Barbecue, who's a warforged bard, who was like I think a part of the entertainment musical brigade of Art Junk isn't even not even. She was part of the musician brigade of a like a powerful like king, I think, before escaping, and has now somehow become friends with Art Junk. And imagine there's going to be some significant difference in approaches between those two people. I think Barbecue is probably going to have a bit more of a sunny disposition than Art Junk does. What subclass of rogue? I don't know. Is that... I don't know if that's done, if that's something I need to do. He's just just level 3 rogue and level 1 fighter so far. He's basically he's very grimy, just struggling to survive, just doing what he can. Like a worse version of, like a more messy version of Andor at the very start of the Andor series, where he's like just stealing shit and he's just angry, but he's not got any direction. So he's like that. That's the sort of vibe that's going for. So yeah, that's my character, and three's when I'll have to double check then what the subclass is. Oh, well done starting college, Aidan Sullivan. I'll have to double check on what the subclass is, if I even picked one, and what it means. I'll take a look at that before next week. Yeah, so that's the D&D. The D&D news. I'm quite excited for it to start. Yeah, everyone should come and join us 6 till 9 p.m. Next Thursday at SK the Crusader on Twitch, and we'll have some fun. With that, we'll do another tune, and then the other thing I was going to talk about was Mrs. Wilson, and we'll get on to that. Remind chat of those names, Sinan, while I'm doing this. Sorry, I don't like it. Don't like that one. Bye to Sinan. I missed Sinan leaving. Yes, Elf and Safety is a very funny name. I'd forgotten about Elf and Safety as the name. Yeah, we've got Elf and Safety is pretty bad. So there's Art Junk, which is me, Barbecue, Elf and Safety, and then Angrith Morningstar, who is like the most normal D&D name. It's like three very jokey names, and then the most D&D name. We did spend an inordinate amount of time in the setup stream just talking about guzzling piss. So I guess there's going to be a tone to the show, but that should be fun. I'm quite looking forward to it. My current game, which is sort of infrequent, I play a Warforged character called B3-AN, or Bean, who's coming to discover that they have a soul, or that they might have a soul. And in the next installment, they're gonna get. Sorry, I've got all shiny. In the next installment, they're gonna do. It's gonna be set on like a special occasion, and we've been told to like think about what our characters would do to dress up. And I think for Art Junk, it's just going to be collecting a whole bunch of like badges and stuff. Like not Art Junk, sorry. Like for Bean, a whole bunch of badges and like bits and pieces that they've just found around the place, and they're like, this can express, like just going overboard on the notion that they can express themselves. So just getting just fridge magnets, fucking badges, random bits of string that they find on the ground, maybe a shell. Just to be like, this is I'm a person. I'm a person. I can express myself in a very teenage sort of way, which is quite fun. Can't wait for you to meet the Goblin NPC Guzzlimpus. Yep. Yeah, that's gonna be quite fun. So yeah, tune into that. We did a one shot with Sinan before, where I played a rogue who was sort of like Inigo Montoya, and I called him Ego Fantastique. Has been supposed to be a riff on that bit from Office Space? Nope. It's just I was trying to think of what a fun name for like this scary big Warforged was gonna be, because I like the idea of a big like scary character having a funny name. Not even funny, but just like kind of cute name. And like the conceit of it is like the group is a group of like teenagers who are in a sort of school, and Bean is like a Warforged who was made 2 years ago at like the end of the war, and was assigned to this to defend, to be a bodyguard of this like important figure, who's another playable character. He's another player character, and who's also a teenager. And I just thought it'd be funny for this teenager gave this big scary thing a name like Bean, because it was just a load of numbers. I thought that would be fun. So yeah, I was going to talk about this show that I watched, called Mrs. Wilson, which was a weird show. It was based on the real life of, or as much of the real life as is available through like state secret stuff of the actress Ruth Wilson, who played Mrs. Coulter in his Dark Materials show. It's about her granddad and her granny, and finding out the strange life of her granddad. And it basically, like, the sort of conceit of the show is I won't tell you everything to spoil it, because it's worth a watch. It's kind of interesting in its own right. The conceit of the show is like this guy dies, her granddad dies, and her granny is setting up the funeral and setting up the costs, and then this woman comes to her door and is like, I'm looking for such and such, and she's like, oh, he's died, and she's like, yes, I know, I need to have details for the funeral, and she says, oh, are you a cousin? And she's like, and the woman says, no, I'm his wife, Mrs. Wilson. And Ruth Wilson, who's playing her own grandmother, falls into this rabbit hole of discovering that he had not just one other family but several other families, and he worked for, she knew this because she met him, and it's like, this is like the sort of setup for the show, met him at MI6 during World War II, so she knew he was a spy or had been working for MI6, so there were things that she couldn't tell her family about his work, and it has a wonderful performance by Jenna. What's her name? 1 second. Second, just trying to find that name has gone out of my head. Fiona Shaw. Fiona Shaw is in the show as like this sort of rough spy master, and she does a great performance. Every scene she's in, you're just like, oh god, Fiona Shaw is such a good actress. But basically she finds out all this stuff about her granddad, or having a bunch of secret families, but there's also thrown into confusion about whether or not he was actually a spy. There's all this stuff, and this is where the show loses me most, because it has this strange thing where it's always insisted that, oh, he might have done bad things, but he loved his family, and yeah, I'm sure he did. And he served his country, and they always like go on about this. It's like it's not just like the characters are saying it, but the show is insisting that serving his country in MI6 is a good thing, and they show that he was in MI6 working as a spy pre-World War II in India. Now, if that's the case, the man was a monster in so many ways, beyond which they show in, like, oh god, stupid light. Come on, stop washing me out. There we go. If that's the case, then he is like this guy. The notion that he had like several families is low down on the list of things that makes this guy a piece of shit, because working for MI6 in India pre-World War II, my friends, you were doing some bad shit. but they keep insisting, like they keep being like, oh, he served his country well, he served his country in India, he did a great job, and then it's thrown into light, like whether or not he actually kept doing that job at MI6 or not, like over the years, or whether he was just like a petty fraudster or something. They keep being like, I believe he did his duty and he served his country. And every time they said that, all I could think was, if he was a petty thief and a fucking con artist, he would have been an astronomically better person than if he was a continued intelligence asset for MI6 in the 40s, 50s and 60s, where he would have done some fucking terrible things for the British state. Oh, good lord. That is something. Yeah, so that was basically my thoughts on that show, which is the only other thing that I've really watched. I watched the Castlevania show. That was quite fun. Nothing's got me particularly annoyed though. There's nothing that's really got me. Oh, nothing that's we've got some bots. Oops. I have no idea. Maybe this stream has been shared on some right-wing channel or something. It seems like we are being spammed. I have a feeling we are gonna have to call the stream because we have a bunch of Nazis who have decided to Nick Fuentes raid. Okay. Okay, that's them calmed down anyway. I mean, what a strange thing to spend your time doing. It would be a bunch of people who spend their lives crying into socks, trying to make their day feel meaningful. Yeah. Good luck to them, and I hope their mothers cook them some nice chicken nuggets for their dinner. I'm sure they're all having a lovely evening. Yeah, so that was about the last of the show stuff that I'd watched this week. I was mainly concerned with all the little weird children, Nazi children at the Conservative Party conference. and less so with a bunch of media this week. I'm very popular. I'm very popular, and I know that they enjoy looking at me. Which, you know, you can't blame them. In the end of the day. Yeah, it's what a time to be alive. Maybe that's why they're here, is because is because I was making fun of the Nazi children on the Tories on the Tory conference. I need to get some more. Does anyone want to take over some modding duties to just keep up with knocking these really boring people out while they're our boring person? Maybe. Yeah, let's get tinfoil. There you go. Limey redneck as well. You have been bestowed the spanner, and there we go. Yeah, I've lost my train of thought, but there wasn't much else that I was gonna chat about that I can think of. We've spoken about the next video, and we will, and we've spoken about the little strange little children and various fascists at the Conservative Party conference. We've talked about the bad play that I saw. What else? What else is going on? Is there anything in chat? Anyone looking to talk about, looking to chat about next? Any questions or anything chat wants me to talk about that I missed earlier when chat was more active? I'll tell you what. I will make another tune, and as I make another tune, anyone in chat who has any questions or anything, give me a just put a wee message, and I'll have a wee think. nice chill vibes. Yeah, so Bryce asked if I have any Scottish indie bands, any old Scottish indie bands, like Joseph Cage's, the Jesus and Mary Chain, the Pastels, or McCarthy. I like Belle and Sebastian. I've always quite enjoyed Belle and Sebastian. I like, I guess Franz Ferdinand counts as sort of the Scottish indie bands now. I like a lot of like, there's some good Scottish like, things are chilled now. Yeah, exactly. There's some good like Scottish post rock, things like Mogwai. They're fun. The Churches, one of the members of Churches, I think, was thinking of, I think he was maybe part of a post rock band that had supported them, that supported like Mogwai, and was planning to start his own post rock soundscape project. That's what I can talk about. I saw some bullshit music this week. I'd almost forgotten about it because it was so bad. I'll get to that in a second. What was I saying? Yeah, there's some good post rock stuff that I enjoy, and I like a lot of Scottish music. I like things like I'll do like a lot of trad stuff, which is fun. I want John to release music recommendations for his patrons. Sure, I mean, yeah, I can do that at some point, depending on the. I mean, I'm happy to give music recommendations anytime. I've been listening to a lot of Laura Mavula, is that her name? Recently, she's fucking brilliant. Oh, Young Fathers, of course, Young Fathers. How could I not mention Young Fathers? I'm probably one of the top listeners of Young Fathers, and of course you got my friend Kapil Seshasaye. I did a Instagram live thing with him just the other day. His album is up for the Scottish Album of the Year award, which is exciting. You should all. I'll go and get that link up because it's he deserves to win that, because when I was thinking of Laura Mavula was who I was talking about. She's great. When I was thinking of this terrible music thing that I was at the other week, I was just thinking about how good Capil's music is, blending lots of like Desi influences, sort of electro, hyper pop, rock influences, all into this really cool music. And his album Lal is really, really good. I'll get up that up now. I'll put it in the chat for everyone. If anyone wants to go vote for Capil's album, or even listen to it. That's Capil's the link to Capil's Scottish Album of the Year award voting portal. If you give it a listen and give it a wee look. Oh my god, thank you, Storm Hayborough. That's so kind of you. Thank you for everything that you do. I found your channel from Chicken Run video, which I watched on company time. Absolutely perfect. It really inspired me as a poor trans in a third world country, and I really appreciate it. I mean, I constantly amazed that people find like that video to be anything like to move them in an emotional way, which is I mean, it's wonderful. I did not expect that when I made the video, but more power to you, and it's very nice to hear. Yeah, thank you so much. Cheers. Yeah, so Capil's music is it's like blending these different influences, Western influences, Desi influences, to make something that's really interesting, and like really just fucking good to listen to. The breaking up the wheel is my favourite one. But this, so on Sunday I went to this fucking show that I thought was like the best shit poster me. Someone once said to me that it's sometimes when you're just like shit posting, you'll come out with the most like absurdly worded, somehow meaningful or terrifying things that you say. Anyway, and so this thing that we were at Sunday was supposed to be like a view of diasporic music, a whole load of different artists making diasporic music, and what I expected of that was something like Capio stuff, like taking these different influences and melding them in together. That was something new and interesting, and it wasn't that. What it was one of the most pretentious things I've ever seen. It was like soundscapes, but like everything was just it was like a parody that someone would make of music students trying to be profound. Everyone was so serious, and it was just like drones mixed with random honking. Like there was a big saxophone that just honked every now and again. The second performance had just like a jug of water just vibrating, and then a ping pong ball, and just a drone. And the third performance, the third performance was an American woman who was just wandering around. She said it was about the song was about tinnitus and old age, and I like tinnitus and old age, and all that was the only thing that you could reasonably discern that as being about tinnitus is that in the very start of it, she played a high-pitched ringing tone, and then it went away, and it didn't really seem to affect the rest of the the performance. She just wandered around doing like acrobatics generously described, and shouting, "I went to CVS for 48 hours," just wandering back and forth. And I was just like, what the fuck is going on here? It was extremely Edinburgh Fringe Festival, and I mean that derogatorily. And I was just like sitting there thinking, fuck, man, there's so many interesting things to do with melding and like using different musical influences to convey meaning, but instead it's taken this extremely pretentious turn. Like I have a high tolerance for like art that isn't conventional. Like I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting to do things that aren't conventional. But part of the problem with this is that it was something that would have been radical or interesting about 100 years ago. It's something that's been done to death so many times, breaking down the notion of music to it's just like a soundscape. Sure, it's been done, and if you're gonna do it, you've got to do it do something that's not just creating a sense of dread for 3 hours. And the whole thing had the tone. You know, sometimes you go into an art museum and there's like a visual installation, and the music playing in the background of that visual installation is just like that sort of drone, that sense of dread, that just like, and then occasionally it'll go doo 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 doo, like at an art gallery. It was like that, except there was no visual element, and there was no like panel giving you some level of accessibility to understand what was going on. You just had to sort of, I guess at what the point of this is, what you were supposed to be looking for, what was going on, and it was just bizarre. It was, a lot of it was just really funny, because like you'd be sitting there and you'd sort of be phasing out, and then just a honk would happen. You'd just be like, honk, and you'd be like and everyone in the audience was so serious, and like the most like, they were dressed and they were all like in the most stereotypical, like kind of hipster, hackney hipster kind of fucking way. They were clearly all extremely wealthy, but dressed in that way that you can tell they're like trying to be like hipster about it. It was, and none of them. There was some old people in the room who clearly were just like falling asleep, and then there was us who were just laughing or trying not to laugh, but as we drank more, finding it difficult. And then the rest of the room was like so enraptured by it, or pretending to be, and the whole thing felt so phony. Like, it just felt like it felt like something you'd see a first year music student who was trying to be exciting like do, but these people were like in their 40s, and you're just like, what is this? Why did it cost so much money? It was so expensive. It was less expensive to go to the fucking theatre, honking at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival just to feel something. Yeah, God, it sucked. And the whole way through I was just thinking about how there are so many better ways to do what was done. And it was a shame. Laughing at random honks while drunk with friends does sound like a good time. It does, but like, it would be a good time for like maybe half an hour, and you just, or an hour, maybe you could cope. It lasted so long. We were there for like 3 hours before we could get out, and we weren't even there to the end. And apparently, the last one was just someone screaming for like 15 minutes, just screaming constantly. And I'm so glad we went to McDonald's. got a fucking vegan burger from McDonald's, and the most diametrically opposite vibe to the preceding night. And then we went home and listened to some music with some fucking early in the night. Someone said to us, you just have to forget the concept of melody. And I was like, okay, I mean, I've listened to post-rock, whatever, I like post-rock. By the end I was like, I want the concept of melody back in my life. I quite like the concept of melody. It makes the time go quicker. And on that note, I'm gonna make one last tune. We'll make one last tune. We're gonna make this an upbeat tune, and then we're gonna draw to a close after that, unless anyone has any further questions or anything else they want to chat about. But we're gonna make this the last tune, and we can chat a bit afterwards. We've outlasted the fucking Nazis. No honking. There'll be no honking from me. That's a fun track to end on. All right. Anything else that I've missed to talk about that I said I was going to? Needs more goose honk. It does need more goose honk. We need a bit more goose honk there just to round it out. It needs the odd random scream to maybe keep it from being too conventional, and to make sure that people are confused, and make sure that you can never explain why there would be a goose honk there. No one should ever know. Some good train news. Yeah, I'm happy for some good train news. Hit us with that good train news. Who doesn't like good train news? We all love some good train news. I'm on the edge of my seat. Mysterious musician. You know what else? I did forget to mention. I was at the weekend down again at the Honour Oak protests. Had to hop out for a meeting, Ricky. Oh, Ricky, you missed the Nazi raid that happened. Unsure how true it was, but apparently there was a Nick Fuentes raid on his Discord, and a bunch of Nazis, but we outlasted them. How did I? And there's also, and better news. We're awaiting some good train news. How did I learn to play the guitar? I learned I went to lessons when I was in school, and fucked about a lot when I should have been doing other stuff. Well, actually, let's not fall into that certain logic. I fucked about on the guitar, which was much more important than doing the other stuff. There was also the honking. Ricky missed the honking. Network Rail seems to have geofencing for track workers going well. I don't know what that means, but I hope it's good. I hope the workers are protected from whatever that means. It makes workers safer when when they're on active rails. That's good. Well, I'm glad that's the case. A win for worker safety. Good news and good trains. The other thing. The other thing that was over the weekend was we were down at the Honour Oak protest, which is a consistent place where Turning Point UK, who are perhaps the most pathetic group of Nazis that exist currently. About 8 of them turned up, along with Lawrence Fox, to protest trans people, basically. And we showed up, and there was astronomically more of us than them. I had to duck out early because there was an emergency that I had to deal with, that had to be dealt with, and had to leave. But so I didn't actually get to see Lawrence Fox humiliate himself in front of a crowd who would absolutely have battered him if he'd not been protected by hundreds of police officers, who, some of whom were still wearing the thin blue line badge, which is weird because apparently because the Met has assured us that it's banned the wearing of the thin blue line badge, which is a fascist symbol, more fascist than the standard police badge, I guess. But they banned it. The Met Police banned it because it was terrible for their PR. It seems like several police officers are still wearing it, which is interesting. But yeah, they basically there were more police, astronomically more police than there were Turning Point people. It was more a demonstration against the police because there were so many police and so few Turning Point arseholes. And they pushed everyone down the streets so that they could make room for Lawrence Fox once he rolled out of bed. I do think it's funny that the rank and file Turning Point members, they turn up early in the morning on Saturday. They turn up at 9:30. Lawrence Fox doesn't show up until 12. He can roll out of bed. He's clearly more special than your average rank and file Nazi. Didn't Fox get arrested for threatening to trash speed cameras? Is that why he was arrested? I saw his house being searched. I didn't know what it was about, but if it's for threatening to trash speed cameras, that's very funny. So that happened, and the other thing related to that, if my friend Amar, the only person who's ever been arrested at these events, where they are like explicitly Nazis. They have Iron Cross necklaces. Members of who've been in the British Union of Fascists, now BNP, and this time they unfurled a banner of a picture of a trans woman that they'd beaten up at one of the previous protests, and they unfurled a banner of her face, which is just completely horrendously gross. The only person to have been arrested at any of these, where they again beat the shit out of a trans woman, for just being there. The only person to be arrested is my friend Amar, who was arrested and had to go to court. And despite the basically the peculiarity of the case is not quite thrown out, but it wasn't taken further. And Amar still has to pay £2,000 of legal fees for it. Was ordered still to pay that, so they are doing a fundraiser for that. And basically the only reason that just a sacrificial lamb, because the police wanted to arrest someone to be a sacrificial lamb for that, and they didn't want to. Obviously they're not going to arrest the Nazis because they're probably their colleagues. It's grim. That was one of my weekend. What the two things I did in my weekend was go to a bad show and shout at some Nazis. Turning Point hosted a transphobe at my university last night. Turning Point UK are such a bewildering bunch, because they have all this money, American money basically, funneled to them, but they have no one. They get no one turns up to their events, no one turns up to their protests, because everyone just thinks that they're dorks, that they're just embarrassing, which is true, but they're dangerous and embarrassing. It's just they're a bizarre sort of bunch to me. Anyway, let's look at. I want to look at this train news anyway. Avanti is getting new trains to replace the old diesel stock, which can use electricity and diesel, and the first high-speed freight engines have also been delivered recently, and also bi mode. We've all been bi mode. Fuck, I hate Avanti West Coast. I've never taken an Avanti West Coast line that hasn't been cancelled. I hate it so much. I'm going down to Liverpool on Saturday and have to take Avanti. I'm just anticipating it being cancelled or delayed. At least it might be a free train if they cancel it again. Last year when I went to Liverpool, every single train I went to, every single one was cancelled. It was a fucking nightmare. So, fascists on the street of South London, and they were roundly and relatively quickly pushed off because Bi-mode is just diesel and electric. I figured, but we also have all been here bi-mode. Good morning to Australia. We are not going to be sticking around all that long. We're reaching the end of the stream. We were just chatting about the turning point fascists who were on the street of South London, and the police who were protecting them and still wearing their thin blue line badges, which is also embarrassing. Get your own symbol of fascism. Stop copying from the Americans. It's embarrassing. I don't think embarrassing is their intention. I don't think they're intending to look embarrassing. I think they're intending to look scary. I don't think, even if they were scary, that the centre would take them seriously. We saw that when they did look scary and they did attack and assault people on Rock previously, and the centre, and some of the left media actually framed it as like some sort of disagreement, they framed it, they equivocated over it, and I don't think I don't think their intention is to look embarrassing. I just don't think that's. I think that these are people who want to scare people. They want to frighten trans people and queer people off the streets, which is why it's important, even when there is small numbers of them, to get out onto the streets and make sure that they know that if the police weren't there, they'd get kicked off. They would get absolutely decimated by the force of resistance to them. And that's what should be on their minds, basically. Bryce saying, I'm working at a school in the middle of nowhere, and the other teachers aren't interested in art, travel, music, and what's worse is they think I'm weird for liking more than drinking and staying in. Yeah, I mean, people make a lot about how drink and substance abuse problems are issues in cities. In my experience, a lot of the time the countryside is much worse for it because there's fuck all else to do a lot of the time. Shetland has a massive drug problem. All the farmers that used to come into Stirling, from friends I know who are from Stirling, and the farmers would just come in and get absolutely fucking off their nut on various drugs and alcohol because there's fuck all else to do. I remember my brother used to work in a rural school, and all that they talked about was tractors. All the kids were just like different from any other school he went to. They were just obsessed with tractors, and they knew all the models of tractors. And we're like, a tractor would pull up outside, and they'd go, "Oh, look, it's the new T6S JCB tractor." And my brother would be like, "Can you focus on drawing this apple, please?" Yeah, that's a shame though. I'm sorry that you've not got folk around you who are interested in what you're into. Ricky's saying, my university made Turning Point's transphobic speaker pay 10k for the cop detail, so at least she's out of some money. Don't think it was even heavily protested. That is funny. Rarely do you see a university administration doing something positive. There was a positive story actually. A university admin booted one of its extremely transphobic vice chancellors because a bunch of staff protested about how horrendously transphobic they are. So there was some positive movement in getting out the scum from the institutions. So that was positive. But on the other hand, senior fellow at UCL is being commissioned to write a report on gender ideology for the UK government, so swings and roundabouts, I guess. Speaking of Scotland, Glasgow is the opposite. I loved it. Music and art all the time. Neat little cafes. A city like that would be nice. Yeah, I love Glasgow. Glasgow's a great place. It was vegan capital of Europe for a while. It's got loads of interesting. Hey John, can you just say hello, hey to me before we go? I'm Elizabeth, and I'd really appreciate it. Yeah, Elizabeth, hey, how's it going? Thanks for popping in. I'm sorry if I missed any of your comments earlier. Hope you enjoyed the stream. At that point, maybe they should just draw the tractors. I think some of them did. I think there was quite a few art projects that were just tractors. Draw what you know, I guess. A protractor, yes. I used to live in country Australia, and yeah, meth and alcohol were basically a replacement for food up there. Lack of mental health care and low socioeconomic status for the entire community. Yeah, it's consistent with things I know. Ricky's saying Charlie Kirk and Tommy Lahren came last semester and were quite heavily protested, so I get why they thought they did 45 cops this time, but nobody knew who this lady was except online rumors. Great stuff. Yeah. Alright, I think we're reaching 11 o'clock. We've gone the distance without the wine. And we'll start to draw it to a close there, I think. Sorry, Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel, for you've just arrived. We're just ending. But thanks to everyone who came, and thanks to the new mods for helping deal with the incursion of really boring people who have nothing better going on in their lives. And we will see you in 2 weeks. And remember, next week, SK the Crusader channel on Twitch, where we'll be doing our D&D first D&D session of Sinan's SK the Crusader's new Dungeons and Dragons stream. We're adding to the list of actual play streams, and yeah, it should be good fun. I do worry sometimes that I give the impression that that drinking wine is why I need to do this or to have fun doing this. It's not true. I'd enjoy wine, but I can have fun without it, and so can you. And I will leave the music on for about 5 minutes, and then yeah, we'll see you all later. Cheers.